let's go ahead and just kind of jump in so that we can start seeing how this is going to help us. The first thing we're going to do here is we're going to say yarn flow. So we don't have a flow in our scripts, but flow is actually being included already. In fact, if you go to /node modules .bin, there's a flow in there, which I had forgotten about this trick until just right now. You can actually just say yarn flow, and it's going to go find that in your node modules and run it for you. So we're going to do yarn flow --init. So we're going to start our project as a flow project. So it didn't like that. Is it just... Oh, is it just init? Oh, okay, I don't think you need the dashes. There we go. Okay, so yarn flow --init. Okay, now if you look in your directory, it created this file here called .flowconfig. But this is kind of, a lot of the times you don't need anything other than just having a flow config, even if it's totally empty. It's just that you're acknowledging at that point, this is now a flow project. Now, the reason why I learned flow in the first place and like flow, it's very easy to introduce flow slowly into a mature code base, right? Because flow is opt-in, so you have to go in and opt in every file. So you just kind of slowly start going and opting in files, and eventually your entire project will become typed, right? I think TypeScript can do something similar to that. Again, I don't have the experience to speak to that, but I know for a fact that was a strength for flow, in my opinion. Okay? Something else we're going to do now is I want you to add a file, or add a global called yarn global add flow-typed. You can also do npm install --global. I just need you to get this CLI called flow-typed. What this is going to, oh yeah, go ahead.
What was the previous command for flow init?
Yarn flow space init. So add the flow typed. So now you should have a CLI thing called flow-typed. What this is going to do is this is going to go out to their repo and bring in types that your project is currently using. So for example, we're using, well, React's a bad example. Let's say, well, like something like Enzyme, for example, right? Like Enzyme has a specific API, and someone went through and actually wrote the types for Enzyme. So if you try and call like enzyme.method that does not exist, and you try and call that, it's going to say, hey, you're trying to call a method there that doesn't exist, right? So that's what flow type is going to do. It's going to go out and grab those those type definitions for you and bring them into your project in an automated fashion, which is my favorite way of doing it. So we're going to say flow-typed install. And it's just going to go out and grab all of the types for the things that you've installed. There's going to be a bunch of red output. This is just saying, hey, you have babel-core, and I don't know what that is. And that's OK. But if you scroll up above all that, you're going to see it brought in Express, Redux, Flow, Lodash, Jest, Enzyme, React Router DOM, Axios, prop types, React add-ons, perf, and React Redux. So we got all those typings for free, which is A-OK by me. OK. Also, just so you know, you can look here inside of your flow-typed directory that it just added for you. And you can actually go look at these type definitions, which is super useful. So for example, like I don't know how Jest is working, so I can click into this, and I can actually go through all of these types. In fact, it's like if you're on a plane and don't have access to the documentation, it's a pretty good way of looking at it. right? You can see that Jest actually does a ton of stuff. So this is pretty recent, and to me, this is a huge addition to Flow, so I'm very grateful to the community for doing that. Okay. Any questions so far? So right now, if we go and say yarn flow, I think it's just going to not really do a whole lot, because we don't have any files that are being opted in to being oh, look, it is doing some stuff. Oh. So, God bless styled components, I love them. But for whatever reason, they have interior errors for Flow, and so you have to go in and tell it specifically, do not type check inside of the styled components directory. That was super weird. So let's go ahead and do that. Do I have that in here? Oh yeah, I do. So go into your flow config file that it generated for you, and the very first thing that you're going to want to do is ignore styled components. So you're going to say project root / node modules / styled components / star. So it's just saying anything coming out of styled components, I do not care. You don't want to ignore all of node modules because you actually do care about the types that are coming out, right? The outputted types, and you want Flow to be able to follow those where it can. So you want to, for the most part, leave node modules in your type checking. Just for whatever reason, as of today, it doesn't work. Something to note that Flow already understands React out of the box. It doesn't need any Flow typings for that. The reason being is that Flow was written for the React team at Facebook, so they just kind of built it in. So you get all that stuff just for free. Okay, so now if we try and do this again and say yarn flow, it's going to go do that again. And no errors as far as it knows. But nothing is actually being opted into being checked. But it's good to know that we're starting from no errors up front. Flow is written in OCaml, so it's relying on that particular typing system. So basically, as far as I understand, it's converting your JavaScript types into an analogous OCaml type, doing all of its type checking with the really robust OCaml typing system, and then spitting out those errors back to JavaScript for you. But that's why it's really fast, right? If we were trying to write a typing system in JavaScript, one that seems like an ill-advised idea, but it would go a lot slower. So that's when you see like the Flow is still initializing all this stuff. It's actually running a background process in OCaml, feeding stuff into it and waiting for it to come back out. And the same thing if like you look in your processes and you see some random OCaml process called Flow, that's what it is.